Well folks, morning. Welcome to our devotional on this Wednesday morning. I trust you're all well. We're going to go this morning to the book of Exodus. We were in Genesis yesterday. This morning, Exodus chapter 3. Well-known passage of scripture to those of us who are familiar with the Bible. Moses is looking after his father-in-law Jethro's sheep on the side of Mount Horeb. And while he's there, he sees a bush that suddenly bursts into flames. And in verse 2 of chapter 3 we read the following: "And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed." He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, but it was not consumed. This was a very, very strange sight indeed. I would imagine it wasn't that strange for Moses to see a bush on fire, probably with the heat in the land in which he lived. There were probably gorse fires from time to time, but this was something very different. This bush was on fire, but the flames were not burning out. The wood in the bush was not being consumed by the flames. Probably like me, you've had a fire at some stage, and you know that if you leave it, it'll start to die down and you have to throw more wood onto it to keep it alive. You don't expect the fire to continually burn and for the wood not to be consumed by the flame. So this was something very strange indeed. We know that Moses was captivated by it, and he went over to see what was going on. And it was in those circumstances that God spoke to Moses, and God told Moses what he had planned for him, that he was going to take him and use him as the means by which he would lead his people, Israel, from their bondage in Egypt. God used something very strange to get Moses' attention, and through that incident to set Moses apart for a work to which he had called him. God is not going to appear to us in a flame of fire in a bush, but God does work in strange and mysterious ways in his providence to get our attention in our lives, to get us to stop and to look and to think, because perhaps we are not where God wants us to be. And whenever God does appear in our lives in these strange providential ways, we need to take heed and to think to ourselves, is God speaking to me through these circumstances? God will go after us in order to lay hold of us and bring us to where he wants us to be and to do what he wants us to do. And if we're not in the centre of God's will, then God will use various means to find us and to bring us to where he wants us to be. If you're not walking as closely with God as you should, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, watch and listen for God coming to you through the providences of life, through his word, whereby he will direct you to where he wants you to be, doing what he wants you to do. He looked and he saw God in the midst of the bush, and God spoke to him and told him what he wanted to do. May God be pleased through his word and through his providence to direct our steps into the centre of his will. May God bless you in whatever you're doing today.